So I liked Evan's comparison between JavaScript and Python, and I figured it's useful to see how other languages do things. And here is a language. So I think it might be useful to implement the same thing in multiple different languages to get a feel for the differences in the languages, like how verbose, how many libraries do you need, and all of these things. And so here I have a language which is called Forth, which is similar to PostScript on some level. It's called a concatenative language. It has no syntax, and it passes parameters by using a data stack in addition to the return stack. What that means is you just type in a number, and it accepts it and puts it on the data stack. And then if you type in a second number, it accepts that, puts it on top of the data stack, and then you can, let's say, add these two numbers together, and you can print a number. So it's very straightforward. You're basically just stringing routines together, and they get executed in order. Forget the formula for converting Celsius into Fahrenheit. Something like this. Yeah, that looks about right. So basically, you take 100 Fahrenheit, you subtract 32, then you multiply by the fraction 5/9, and you get out 37 Celsius. And I was thinking what kind of application could be that's like small enough but also kind of big enough to be interesting, and I made something that gives me a breakdown of cash into like dollar bills and how many 50s, how many dimes, and so on. So for example, $23.45 is 120, 3 singles, 1 quarter, and 2 dimes. Okay, so how does this work? How does this cash work? And the way that Forth works is because they have this separation between the data stack and the return stack. You can do things like what I'm doing here. So, for example, the colon defines the next string as a subroutine. So this is a subroutine called slang, and then here I'm using that subroutine. Here I define the subroutine called cache, and in cache I have basically I have a dollar amount on the stack at this point, and so the first thing that happens is rock looks at it, and rock is defined as 1 million. So $1 million is a rock. And we have brick, but it's in parentheses, so we're not doing bricks right now. Then we have rack, which is 10,000. We have a grand, which is 1,000, Benjamin 100, and so on. And what happens is that the does portion gets executed when you call the function here. And it basically does a simple division. And then the if at Forth doesn't look at the stuff behind it. It looks at the top value of the stack. So if the top value of the stack is non-zero, then this part here executes. And if the top value of the stack is 0, then this part executes. And this R from and to R are words that manipulate the return stack directly. So our fetch here, our fetch cell plus fetch print name is how we get to this text string. So we take the dollar amount that's on the stack. Let's say we divide it by 50. We find out that we have 3 50s. Then we can just print 50. And before that, we print the number 3. And this goes, carriage return goes into the next line. Anyway, let me know if this is interesting and if this is, you know, comparing languages is of interest at all. They do differ in how much code you need to solve a problem. And this is one of the languages that has the absolute smallest amount of code. And I mean, you have to get used to the you know, what it looks like, but I find it quite readable and fairly easy to maintain.